Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Consciousness with your luscious hostess, May Vu, broadcasting live every Monday at 12 noon Pacific Time.
Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Consciousness Radio. I am your host, May Vu. This is where we talk about all things sex-related. And as we do so, we might learn a few things for ourselves, encountering maybe some old lies that we may not know we had in our heads, and perhaps, and my hope, my wish is that we would then raise our own consciousness around our relationship to our sexuality. I have a really great show for you today. This is a continuing on the theme that one of the themes that I love so much is the future of sex and relationship. Oh my gosh, right? Where is sex and relationship evolving to? Today, my guest is Dr. Robert Dunlap. Or Dr. Robert for short. He is the founder of Sex Coach U for University. Sex Coach U is one of the few sources out there who teaches people how to become a really great qualified sex coach. Not a therapist, but a sex coach. They work with clients in all range sexually related, and they have been approved by the state of California, of China, and Russia, and in Poland, and so much more. So I'm so thrilled to have Dr. Robert here and to talk with you around this subject. Does Poland have sex, right?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yay. So, Dr. Robert, jump on in, honey. Tell them a little bit about yourself, like some personal data so they know, they can feel you, and then we'll dive in.
Thank you for having me on the show. I got my doctorate at the Institute in San Francisco, and I've been pretty much in practice for about the last 8 years as a sex coach.
Yeah.
I'm the co-founder of Sex Coach U, and my partner is Dr. Patty Britton, who wrote the book called The Art of Sex Coaching. And after so many people said, "Oh my God, I love this book," I think a series and or some kind of training should come out of it. We were approached by a company and a group saying, "Gee, we would love to get involved with doing trainings of sex coaches."
Yeah.
So 5 years later, we are now in 23 countries, and we have over 90 students with us, as well as we have about 20 people on faculty.
Wow.
A lot of the top names in the field, from Tammy Nelson, Gina Ogden, Linda Savage, on down the line. So many really high-quality people who are part of our faculty as well as our advisory board.
That is super wonderful. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do in the world.
Oh, thank you. It's really, it's an honor serving, mankind. And I could say womankind as well, but being, accurate, I guess it's still, the preferred a noun, which is mankind or humankind.
Humankind, that's much better. So before we get ourselves trapped into the political correct world, let's go to the fun world of sex and sexuality. And what is it that people are wanting to learn?
Well, here's what we're finding out, because we just returned, actually this year, I'll have been in 4 different continents presenting and or training people around the world. The first one that we did this last March was in China, where we were in 4 major cities in mainland China, as well as then we went to a big conference and had meetings in Hong Kong. And what was really amazing was hearing how polyamory is actually going to be promoted in China. And we're going, why would they want to promote polyamory? And it became...
So let's tease them a little bit. what is polyamory in the first place?
Polyamory means many love.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people, and this isn't new.
Yeah.
In fact, monogamy is really only within the last 3 to 4 centuries a way of having some sort of registry of commitment, so to speak. If you read the Bible, the Quran, all of these other literature of religious value, you'll see that Abraham, Isaac, Mohammed, all of these different people had several wives.
Yeah.
And this is only a new concept of monogamy.
Well, I read in the book Sex at Dawn.
Yes.
And I really love how he's explained that. And I was like, holy cow, is that what happened? You know, like when we started to become a farming world where we need to have protection, and this is my farm. You know, when we moved away from living as a group to survive the environment, to fight against beasts and all that stuff, but then we start to do our own farming and have our own houses. Then we need our own wife and our own children to survive, and so that's where monogamy came in.
Yes, correct. So the dynamics, though, around the world are doing this shift back. And what I found really fascinating, and here's one of the reasons why in China, I don't know if your viewers or listeners, rather, last night watched 60 Minutes, but there is this huge housing bubble that is taking place in mainland China.
Yeah.
They overbuilt.
Yep.
Now, when we were both in Shanghai taking the bullet train from Guangzhou and Hongdong, we found that we were going through empty cities.
Yeah.
Totally empty cities. And the success that China achieved by having one child per couple, it succeeded.
What does that mean, that it succeeded?
What it means is now they're at negative growth using that particular dynamic. So what they've decided to do, for several other reasons, which are really fascinating, is if you can afford it, they're going to allow more children, as well as because they've overbuilt and there are all of these additional cities. Now they're going to allow more than one home ownership, which means like you could have one where you live and one that's like a vacation or a place where your family would live while you go work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because there is this rapid move into the cities. One of the most spectacular cities I think I've ever been to in my life was Shanghai.
I was just going to say Shanghai.
Yeah, which is the most populated city in the world.
Yep.
And it's gorgeous, modern, clean. Everywhere that I went, I was astounded at how clean it was.
Yeah.
Both the subways, the bullet train, all of the big shopping malls.
So how does that tie in with polyamory?
Okay, great. You worked me back to it. How it works back into it, they also made a discovery that in China, because there is a 25% larger amount of men, they're thinking that maybe more women could have more spouses and or relationships. Because there's 25 million more men than women. So
so this is like the reverse.
Exactly.
The old way, one man have several wives. Now one woman could have several husbands.
Exactly. Now that's where I'm going to build more of this discussion. So we were in Poland.
Yeah.
We were with, and we were doing a training. We have a SAR training, which is a sexual attitude reassessment. It's a special training that is a requirement if you want to be a certified sex educator, sex counselor, or therapist with the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists.
Yeah.
While we were doing our training, there were several people, mostly the women, who had multiple male partners. And in fact, in this one particular group that we were training, one of the women is like part of an organization that is for worldwide peace. And they believe that they will achieve this through this multiple love of just humankind. Now, the other training that we did, and this is the other fascinating component where you see the trends begin, there was a woman who was part of our training in Prague of the Czech Republic who has 2 husbands and 2 lovers.
Yeah.
And when I did my interview and discussion with the men, they loved it.
Why?
Why they loved it was because, hey, I get 2 days for myself now.
I think that's a great ratio, really. I think us women have much higher needs for stimulations, for being with different men, so we get different ideas, different inspirations, and different services, and the men, they need more of their own time and more of their own, caveman time. So this is great.
Yes. So what we found is globally, now we're talking about from China to Eastern Europe, to Central Europe, both in the United Kingdom, as well as there's a large group of polyamory here, even in the States.
Yeah.
So having said that, you can see where the trend of the future has begun. Now, the most complicated thing about polyamory is the negotiation.
Right.
And how you negotiate that can be extremely tricky, because the largest obstacle is, how do I tell my partner that I would like to expand my choices without having my partner feel offended that that person isn't good enough?
Right.
Once you can really navigate through that, you're on your road, or on the road to that kind of lifestyle.
I have to pause you here for a second, because I'm looking at myself. I'm right on this cuff myself. I was married for 18 years, and I was all in the sign on the dotted line for monogamy, but that's because I didn't know any other option, and it seemed so right. Yeah. But then after 18 years, something came over me. My sexuality woke up, and she wanted out, and then I just was totally introduced to this world of polyamory, and like, oh my God, what is all this stuff? And I thought it was so easy to do and everything. But what I finally got to sit with, or to come face to face, is really before I even can negotiate this new agreement, I think there's a step before that, which is I needed to believe or change my paradigm of relationship to see that this is even possible, and that to see that, world peace can come from here. Like there's a level of deserving in here for me. Like, oh my God, who am I to dare to even think that? I'm such a slut to even think that. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with the way that I commit? Maybe I don't commit deep enough, and that's why I want more. All that judgment. But really, underneath all that for me is like the whole paradigm of can I really have that much love and that good of a relationship and have it exactly the way I want, like that? You mean I don't have to settle for less? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Now, coming from that part, what the studies and the interviews of these people are finding is that they're a slightly more intelligent group of people.
Uh-huh.
They have higher social skills from the standpoint of being able to negotiate things. Mm. And when it becomes a type of communal activity as well as a living style, for example, there may be a group of people who decide they're going to marry each other and they all live together. The financial dynamic allows for much more creativity, whereas they don't have as much of a responsibility to do anything but whatever, for example, their art is, if you're a painter, or if you're a musician. So there's a really strong dynamic about that. And I think I just saw the other day someone had made a comment about what movie would you be able to see. Well, there are several. HBO had Big Love. That was a wonderful display of this one man with three different wives, and when they had attempted to negotiate to bring in a fourth wife.
Right.
There was a lot of power in that on negotiation, the wives having their say in the situation. Now, there's also on Showtime a series called Polyamory, not to be missed. And this is more of the communal type of thing where there are women who have multiple relationships and maybe just one husband.
Yeah.
So when you see how this functions as an agreed upon, everyone is consensual about what they do, including how they want to introduce someone else into the marriage.
Yep.
The negotiation, I'll let you have a date first, but you have to guarantee and promise me there is no sex.
Yeah.
Maybe you can only kiss once, and you have to promise that that's, how it's going to be. So a lot of it's the negotiation of even baby steps forward. It doesn't mean that everybody is a swinger.
Yeah.
Difference there. In the 60s, there was this whole thing of swinging where whoever picked up someone's car keys that were in a bowl, they went home with.
Well, we still have swinger parties now, so I don't want to portray like, swinging doesn't exist anymore. I think there's a healthy group, populations of swingers out there that are also learning about relationship and learning to love more openly and more holistically, actually.
Yes. Now, one of the things that becomes kind of an add-on to this, and when we had our conversation before the show began, and that's BDSM.
Yeah.
What is so wonderful about it, and
so let's not assume that people know what BDSM means or stand for. So what does it mean and stand for, Dr. Robert?
Okay, it's bondage, discipline, and sadomasochism.
Sounds very scary. These are big four very scary words, and when you put them together, you want to go,
Right. It doesn't mean that someone gets out a whip and just starts beating the hell out of you.
But that's what Hollywood has done to us. Hollywood have done such terrible, terrible damage around this whole thing. They always portray, any BDSM scene as psychotic, crazy, something, but it's actually a very powerful, holistic, amazing interchange between two people and using and understanding power and how it can serve the depth and the development of the human being involved. So I just want to keep reinforcing the education, the re-educating of what BDSM can do for people and in our relationship with each other.
Well, the great thing about it is the recent book, even though it wasn't a great book, everybody has already said 50 Shades of Grey, all 3 books were not so great, but the bottom line about the book that was good was everything was consensual, everything was negotiated, and everything was set up from the beginning.
Yeah. And it also was a very easy way for women around the world to come out of their closet and say, hey, I kind of like this shit. I want to try it. What is this stuff? You know, can I have some? Ooh, where can I go and get some of this stuff? You know, so I think it's just for that alone, you know, makes it worthwhile.
Yes, and that became another global phenomenon. In 1999, I began a project that is called Beyond Vanilla.
Yeah.
And we completed the project, and we actually got it into theatrical release around the country, and the film was in over 40 international film festivals. Mm-hmm. And essentially what we found, even back then, 12 years ago, was that people were really on the verge of exploding into kink and fetish. Mm. And what we found by interviewing all of these people, again, the other surprising factor was how much more intelligent this particular group of people were. That these people really were onto something that really proved to be therapeutic. Mm-hmm. A good flogging is almost like an incredible massage.
Yeah, it is. It's so freaking healing. But you don't. So I want to highlight that one for a second. So here's my personal story around this, so that the listeners can really start to like grab a hold of this thing. Because I remember when I first heard the word flogging, I just start screaming and running, you know, with my hands over my ears and go, "Don't tell me anymore." So that was how freaky I am about it. But when I first really experienced a flogging session, so you got to know my history for a second here. I grew up in Vietnam with a very angry father. He used to hit me and my brother all the time, almost every day. Those beatings were not therapeutic. They did not feel good. They were shameful. They really hurt. They left permanent imprints in my physical body that, you know, I could just be in a confrontational situation with a man and I could literally feel my face still stinging with the slap that I received as a child. So that's what that kind of beating did to me.
Right.
Right? But when I was an adult, a full-grown woman at 39, 40, 41, 42, whatever, that, you know, in those years where I consented to experiencing a flogging session where it was my choice to be tied up and then to empower this person, not anyone else, but this person to give me a good flogging and to start slow and gentle and warm up the area all the way to a heavy, intense session, you know, where he and I are completely connected and really felt into every stroke so that I could open and open and open. It was so healing that it actually took away or healed the pain of the beating that I got as a child. So that's what I mean when I say flogging can be very healing and therapeutic. Yes. So I want the listener to hear that because it's so important, because what we see in Hollywood is so different and so terribly communicated. It's they're designed to titillate and sell us shit, you know. So it's not it. So really what Dr. Robert is talking about is this kind of sacred work in a flogging. There you go, honey. Now you can have the stage back.
That's great. The other component that you had suggested, but we should explore a little more deeply, is that of the bondage.
Yes.
If you were tied up, that means that you were in bondage.
Yeah.
Which meant you had total relinquished yourself to the top. Now there's a top and a bottom.
I would say your ego self.
Yes.
Right? Because even though you are tying me up, I am still in control and ownership because I can say no at any time and you would stop.
That is correct. That's part of the negotiation of what it is you're going to do. And that's the safe word. So when I say red, it's over.
Yeah.
That means this scene is done. If I say yellow for caution, it means, well, maybe, a little less, a little harder, or whatever.
Or check in with me some more so that I can redirect how this is. So the power is always in the bottom, the person being tied up or the person being flogged, whatever, play that you're engaging in. And you are relinquishing your ego mind. In other words, especially for us women, we're so controlling and so protecting ourselves every moment of the day, trying to manipulate and control the world so that it goes according to our wishes. So that's what we're surrendering. We're giving that up in that 20 minutes or an hour, whatever time that we've negotiated, so that we can just feel what it's like to surrender.
And that isn't exclusive for women, it's also for men.
That's right. It's even more important for men sometimes.
Yeah, because when you relinquish that control, you are literally putting yourself in an entirely different headspace.
Yeah.
So what we found, the people who like to be tied up were the ones who were always in control, and they were tired of it. They wanted to relinquish that control.
Yeah.
So judges, attorneys, doctors.
Yes, this is why we keep hearing in the news, Judge so-and-so got his pants cut down and tied up and blah, 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 and this embarrassing, compromising position. Honey, it's only embarrassing and compromising because we don't understand what they are doing. But actually what he was experiencing is exactly what he needed, and he was hoping, he paid good money for it, and he empowered this beautiful priestess or goddess of a woman who knows what she's doing to tie him up and do these uncompromising things to him so that he can release all of the stress during the day that he accumulated from his shitty job.
Yeah. As you'll notice, that's why there are so many politicians who get into that kind of play.
Yeah.
It's because they have so much power.
Yeah. And that they need a safe place to just surrender and to not be responsible for one moment or 1 hour. Like they're now being told what to do instead of they have to, be responsible and carry the whole world on their shoulders every moment of the day.
You got it.
Yep, I got this stuff, honey. I think this is why I do this show, because I was raised a Catholic girl, and I'm an Asian woman, immigrated from Vietnam, so I was very restricted and very proper and very, demure and not exploitive or anything. And whenever I hear the word sex or, leather, I get freaked out because I'm like, oh my God, that's sin, that's terrible, And then when I started exploring at 39, I was like, holy shit, I've been lied to all this time. I didn't know this is where unconditional love lives. Because when you have these kind of conversations, you're in the realm of unconditional love. It's not just, manipulating the relationship so that I can be safe in here anymore. This is like, I got to learn to do this for your highest good and my highest good.
Yes. One of the other things that was really interesting while we were making the movie Beyond Vanilla is the whole thing of fetish.
Uh-huh.
Now, a fetish is a psychosexual attachment to like an object or thing. So people, for their fetish, like with leather.
Uh-huh.
Or a lot of men have the fetish of they like breasts.
Or red toenails peeking out of peekaboo shoes.
Exactly. Exactly. So they become a psychosexual attachment that is really profound. And it can start literally from almost birth. If someone has been deprived as a child of being breastfed, they can end up having a fetish where that's what their most pleasurable thing is, because they didn't get it as a child, is to suckle a breast.
And that is such a common thing. I mean, that's why breast is so popular. I think it's both men and women. At least men, somehow it's now becoming socially acceptable that men love breasts, but I think women were deprived of enough breast time too. I mean, we're fascinated with it ourselves, but we don't even have the right to be fascinated with breasts.
Yes. Well, everybody's missing out.
I know, right? But so the name, these three words are so charged, Dr. Robert. Like, fetish means psychosexual attachment. I mean, like, anything you put the word psycho in, immediately we go sideways and think there's something wrong with it.
Yes, and that's what's really unfortunate. And there are a lot of things that are being practiced today, and one of them that I absolutely think is so much of a business, we'll just call it a business, is sex addiction. What it is, really, if you have been trained as a clinical sexologist like myself, I believe, and my firm knowledge about this is, it's a compulsive behavior. You're not addicted. There isn't anything that is an addiction to that particular issue and or problem that the person has. Okay, there's no chemical, even in the brain, that makes sex addictive. Okay, it's a compulsive behavior, and there's a lot of arguments about that. I just think it's a big business. So what we're going to do is we're going to send this very famous golfer, because he fooled around with all of these women, and we're going to pathologize it and make it a disease.
Right.
So that what happens is then the insurance companies will pay. Everybody will think we're having this poor golfer is going away. It's so polluted in society, and just so wrong.
Well, honey, okay, now you just open another can of worms right here. I'm so in there with you. First of all, I'm so glad to meet you and that we're having this conversation, because I haven't been trained, Dr. Robert. I just I train myself when it comes to my knowledge around sex, from what I subjected myself to learn since in my life. And so this is what I knew intuitively. I'm like, sex addiction. I have not met a sex addiction yet. I've met people who love sex. I've met people who love certain kind of sex, like the fetishes, or these things turn them on, those things don't turn them on. And I met people who really love sex so much, but they're so constrained and they're not allowed to have sex, so it leaks out and looks disgusting and dirty. But if we remove all of that, I think they're okay. I think they're just like any one of us if we really have removed our straitjacket around this that we have, But because I'm not a doctor, May Vu, so I just feel like I'm nuts talking about this, But thank you for saying what you just said, because I'm like, yeah, see, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, that's the other component. I mean, it gets down to judgment after a while.
Yeah.
You instinctively know what's really right and wrong, essentially. When there are a lot of different coaching styles. Getting back to our training that we have at Sex Coach U, we train people on the 47 most common types of sexual behaviors that we feel can be absolutely turned around and corrected. And the first thing is that we train is to not pathologize and make this a disease or a sickness, because it's all correctable. One of the most common things for men is early ejaculators or rapid ejaculators. To pathologize it, it's premature ejaculation.
Right.
That makes it already wrong from the get-go. If you can change and modify that behavior and make it so that it's correctable by being an early ejaculator, that means that you're going to be able to have that client, that male client, be able to have more control. Teach that client how to control. For women, the most common thing that we find is low libido. Oddly enough, low libido is a lot different than being unfulfilled sexually, or finding the terms and the words to make it either a disease where they have their own female ejaculation or whatever you want to put on it that is wrong, where it's like ED.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes it already pathologized and medically something that you can get to an insurance company. And
I know. I remember
that business.
I remember when I first met my current boyfriend. We've been together for almost 5 years now. And when I first met him, he was turning 60, and his cock wasn't working like it used to. And he was going through a lot of pain with that, like something's wrong with my body. I'm a failure. I'm not a man anymore. And I looked at him and I'm like, I don't know much about this, but maybe, just maybe, your cock is just different now than it was before, and you have to learn to have sex in a new way instead of labeling it, dysfunctional.
Yes.
Then you're doomed for good. Because I mean, who could possibly function with a label? My cock is dysfunctional, right?
Right. Exactly. So, erectile dysfunction.
Yeah. It's not. It's a myth. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway. It's just your body works differently at 60 than it did when it was 20. You've got to catch up and find out what it's like. So for me, the skill underneath all of this it's called approving. Like we need to learn to approve of ourselves and our own desire and the way we like sex or the way we don't like sex. We just need to approve of what is, rather than comparing and then judging ourselves against invisible others that we don't even know really out there, but we think they're out there.
Yes. And one of the most common that, and it's part of the discussion at every single conference that we go to, is couples not having sex.
Yes.
And when you read and hear the numbers where maybe they have sex only 6 times a year.
Yeah. Like I just did a show recently, like sexless marriage in Japan. Yes. Their number was like 40% high, and in the United States we estimate it to be 20% high. What does all that really mean?
Well, it's actually higher than that in the United States.
Oh, good. But we don't like to be known as, a country that doesn't have sex. So, so what is it in the United States?
Yes. So the data as it comes through, and that's because there's so much more pressure on the relationship. And that's what happens. And it seems that the fall-off point is after a period of 5 years.
Yeah.
So when you're in the relationship in the very beginning, there's this thing that is called limerence, where literally your hormones and everything are really charged. They're really on fire because of the newness. And you get these big surges of oxytocin and this and that thing that makes for really great sex in the beginning, and that curve kind of then drops. And it's quite natural. So if you're working with a couple, the whole thing is, how do you get them to have more care for one another sexually? And that means, for example, if I'm coaching that couple, set up a time and a date when you know that that's all it is that you're going to do to please one another.
Yep.
That you're going to set a time where he's going to bring you chocolates and, you know, a nice bottle of wine, or he's going to buy that special kind of oil for giving you a great massage.
Starting at the feet, like way down there, no pressure whatsoever, but really, I mean, that is our opening place. You know, it's very vulnerable, it's very sensitive, delicate, it's very erotic, but it's also very neglected. But, you know, start way down there and work your way up and let the woman soften and surrender into it. Hot sex will happen.
Well, one of the most common things here in Los Angeles that I see cropping up everywhere is all of these foot massage parlors.
Yeah. $25.
Yeah, 15.
15, even better. There's competition down there. Back to the Chinese again.
Oh, it's so much fun. Oh, my word.
You know what? Let me take a commercial. We're having so much fun. Time goes by so fast. And I just love this conversation, and we have opened a lot of different beautiful arena here. And when we come back, I like us to like lock some of them in so that we can make some sense for the audience.
Sure, absolutely.
Is your marriage or relationship in crisis? Where one partner wants to expand into their sex and bring scary changes to the relationship, while the other partner is dug in, protective, and saying, "No way in hell is this going to happen." May knows this place well, and she can help both sides. She is truly amazing. Learn more about her specialty, crisis coaching for couples and individuals, at sexliesandconsciousness.com.
All right, I am back. This is May Vu, and I have with me Dr. Robert Dunlap from Sex Coach U, and we are having such a fun conversation ranging from the future of sex to how the world is shifting toward more and more polyamorous relationship, with having the woman being the center and having, you know, the woman having more male partners and be open and loving and negotiating around all of that together, versus the old polyamories where one man having many wives kind of thing. And then we shifted to BDSM and how this world of play and fetishes and power exchange that allow people to tap more and more into the depth of their relationship, creating healing qualities in their exchange, in their play, and allowing us to have a more range, more fun with our sexuality and our interaction with each other. To couples and couples who are not having sex, to, you know, sexual, what we consider, what we label sexual diseases or failure, you know, when we put a terrible label on there and make it like a sickness, then we just actually shut down our sexuality and really don't have much chance of like recovering or really dive into it and discover the beauty of whatever that is bringing to us. You know, Dr. Robert, one of the things that we haven't talked about too is this whole, I was just going to say the word addiction to porn, but this whole porn conversation that also has been bubbling up in my community here too, on how, young people are preferring having sex with themselves while watching porn than engaging with other people because it's less complicated.
That is something that is also global, and because there are too many expectations to be met, and because everything is basically unrealistic, a lot of the porn stars, the men, have enormous genitalia.
Yeah.
The women have enormous, oversized, puffed breasts.
Yeah.
And when they do these performance type of acts, they're movies.
There are a whole bunch of people around them to make it look good and look like something.
Exactly.
If you have that many people around you to make it look good, it might turn out that good also.
Yeah, there's the other thing. If you are really into exhibitionism, if you like to do that, of course that's going to be a component. But it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
And the unrealistic thing is, you're a 15 or a 16-year-old boy, you're not going to find a 15 or a 16-year-old girl that has that kind of body, who has that kind of sexual awareness. Right. And that's one of the things that I think is really, really wrong pretty much around the world. Now, it is getting better in certain countries where there is better sex education.
Yeah.
If you educate people about sexuality from an earlier age, you demystify it. You take out all of the things that, are just so untrue and so mislabeled and just so wrong. For example, how do you dare tell a teenager, male, female, intersex, whatever, that abstinence only is it? Someone who has raging hormones, who wants to get laid, you don't tell them that.
Well, you do, but it comes with such a high price. You put so much guilt on them, so much shame on them. It's literally you have a wild, beautiful Arabian horse in your hand, and to keep that in control, you got to shackle it down while it flails back and forth, trying to break itself so that it can stay in the container that we want it to stay in. That's literally what we're doing to our children the way we teach them around sex.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Now, while we were in Prague, we were really lucky because we got a special private tour of the Museum of Sex.
Oh.
And while we were there, I was able to even go into the back room where they start preparing special collections and presentations. And I was amazed at some of the things that they used to have as chastity belts for both women, as well as there were machines and devices that they would have where they would wrap a male penis.
Yeah.
And if different things would happen, they would be they'd get an electrical charge, or it would set off bells.
Yeah.
All kinds of just crazy things with the chastity belts, where literally there were like razors that would have, so that if someone tried to penetrate, they would be shredded.
That's
it was horrible.
Yes. Well, I know those are the extreme cases, and we all can recognize that as a terrible thing, and we don't do that, right? But here's a level of unconsciousness. I actually did a radio show on this last year where we talk about baby boy circumcision, and especially in the United States, when it has nothing to do with religion. We don't even relate that anymore, and we still unconsciously and, just send baby boys in to have it circumcised. And for what? It doesn't make any sense, and we're so misunderstood and miseducated around that whole entire thing, and it wrecks the penis for life. And yet, mother still said, that's the boy, he's got to look like his father, and we think that sounds logic.
Yes. Well, and on top of that, what about labioplasty? Women feeling that their labias, they don't look quite right. They don't look like this porn star. Yeah. So I'm going to go have surgery down there.
Right.
To get my labia where it looks a little, different. So for your fellow listeners, please do us a favor, get a book of anatomy and look up some of these things that we're talking about if you don't know.
Yeah.
It's really important.
And
really, what happens when you do a circumcision? What is a labioplasty? Yeah. What is the labia? And what is a foreskin?
Yeah. And if you're a pregnant mom and you're expecting a baby boy, let me tell you, that foreskin is not unattached. It's very attached to the penis. And in order to cut that off, they have to go in and do terrible things to that little tiny penis to get that skin off. And it's completely unnatural. So stop doing that. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, it's crazy. I have a show on that. Please listen to that. It's so healing and so powerful. It just makes me cry just thinking about what we do to our sexuality. And we wonder why we're so crazy out there in the world. It's like, come on.
Well, what we're saying is you weren't created right.
Yes. And it's so wrong.
There's something wrong with the way you were created that we have to remove that disgusting extra piece of skin.
Yes. And then we wonder why, men have a higher dominance or what is it? I'm so riled up. My brain doesn't work straight anymore, but like higher aggression rate. Well, duh, on your first day of life, somebody cut a part of your penis off. Wouldn't you have aggression issues? Come on, So anyway, so there's
so that medically speaking, and there are ways because of what's happened now in the future of sexology is so much with the brain.
Yeah.
And what the brain tells you, what's happening when these different things, for example, a circumcision, the male can lose as much easily of 30% of sensation.
Oh, honey, I heard it straight from Dr. Ryan McCarthy. He has dedicated his life to study this and to educate the world on it. It actually is higher than that, 80%.
That could be. I know from other statistics, and of course, there are different studies, and you have to kind of rely on the source of those studies. It's the same thing in Africa still.
Yeah.
It's horrible where they circumcise women so that they don't have sensation because they remove the clitoris.
Right.
And you go, oh my God, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. That's what's so crazy, though, in this country. One more thing around the circumcision, and we got to move on. But it's like we see that as, oh, my God, there's something wrong. We should not do that. But when it comes to our baby boys, we send them in and just hand it over to the doctor. We don't even witness what happened to him when they try to cut that thing out. It's not a snip, people. It's a go in, rotor around, separating the skin from the penis all around the circumference of that penis. That is intense pain. They pass out a lot of times when they go through that thing. And yet we're like, circumcision, what's the problem? We just do it. 5 minutes procedure. It's like, Anyway, so let's get back to this. We only have 5 minutes left, so.
No, only 5.
I know. It's like we're like the bullet trains on this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Robert. And this conversation, and we span the globe with this, and we'll have to get you back on again because
I love it.
You're always out there and seeing these conferences that you go to, and tell us more about, what you're seeing, what's the trending sexuality,
Yeah, I'm going to the World Congress, WAS in Brazil in September. And I just wanted to say to any of your listeners who are out there, we're giving a special discount of 10% off on any one of our advanced courses at Sex Coach U.
So can I take an advanced course without a beginning course?
Yes, you can. In fact, we've made them a la carte, and we have some wonderful, wonderful polyamory. And for people who want to know about sex and aging, we have a wonderful course on that, Baby Boomer Sex.
Yes, it's so important, so important. I'm feeling compelled to go. Well, what course would you recommend for me?
There's so many on there. Here's another one. We have now Deborah Sundahl, who teaches female ejaculation.
I thought I took a class with her a month ago in Denver, and I love her.
Yes, well, she's on our faculty, and she has a wonderful thing on female ejaculation and how to achieve it.
Yep, and how to even spot it, the female prostate, and all that wonderful stuff. So let's lock this in. Why does Poland have sex rights?
Because they are moving in the direction of not making sexuality a disease, that they've moved towards polyamory. They're moving towards BDSM, kink, and fetish, because they're educating their people, and they're moving away from the religious yoke that they've had to experience for centuries.
Yeah, they are a Catholic country, people. So if Poland can do this, we can do it.
Absolutely, and it's profound what we were able to do in our trainings there, both in Krakow as well as in Warsaw. It was amazing.
Yeah, just so that we don't. I want to acknowledge the people who have gone before us. Like I live near San Francisco, and the more I learn and expand about my sexuality, the more I realize what an amazing city, with all the teachers and people who have gone before us, who paid a huge expensive price to take a stand around healthy, open sex that includes all fetishes, that is approving all the things that we talked about today, that has, like the teacher of BDSM is in San Francisco, so it's like, I want to appreciate all those teachers that have spent their whole entire life holding this space for us. And I know that Vancouver has a healthy community, Toronto and London and
Los Angeles,
and so there's so many out there. So I'm not saying that, Poland is the best or anything. I just think it was so cool to hear from Dr. Robert that Poland and China are the two countries that, are like wanting to learn and bringing polyamory to their people, which blew my mind. I was so happy to hear that.
On our next conversation, we need to talk about Tantra. That's also the future.
Oh, yes. And so it's so funny that we say this is the future, but, like the people who are in Tantra and in BDSM, like, come on, people, we've been around for decades, Yes, you all have been around for decades. But what's happening, just like yoga and everything else, it's like it's coming together, and humanity is coming together and taking all this stuff forward at a much faster rate and wonderful speed and depth, and now we have more tools to learn and to understand. I think the human consciousness is ready for this. So I'm so excited to be part of this wave. And Dr. Robert, again, thank you so much. And for my listeners out there, I work with divorced women who are dating again, and especially when you're a mom and balancing being a mom, a career, and also a hot romance and great sex. Come talk to me. Every month, I dedicate one free complimentary session to help you discover where you are in all these things and anything you want around it. Have a wonderful day, Dr. Robert. Thanks again.
You too. It was a real pleasure, and thanks.
But it was a real pleasure for me, too. Thank you so much.
Do you want more sex, lies, and consciousness? Access our archives at sexliesandconsciousness.com. While you're there, please leave your comments or suggestions for the show and participate in current SLC conversations with other listeners worldwide.